welcome Ontario Minister of Environment, Conservation and Parks and MPP for Peterborough, Northumberland, the Honourable David Bicini, to share an announcement from the province.
Thank you. Mandy, thank you very much. And thank you all for coming today. It's a beautiful day, beautiful Friday, great way to kick off the long weekend, then to see the faces of so many people who are on the front lines of supporting our community, serving our community. I'd first like to start by thanking the county for hosting today. Thank you, Warden Mandy Martin. Thank you for your leadership, your partnership, and working together. A lot of exciting things happening in Northumberland County, and I'd like to really thank you for your leadership and the incredible team here at the county. I think those exciting things and our exciting visions for this community are only made possible if people have a roof over their head. And a society defines itself on how you look after the most vulnerable and those who, in many cases out of no fault of their own, or who've fallen into difficult times, need a helping hand and need a leg up and need support. And so I want to thank all of you, many of whom are here today, with your organizations, nonprofits, charities. Devote your time and your skills to helping those who need it in our community. And I want to thank you for what you do and for the work that you play. And you inform today's announcement and will be critical partners on the front line in where we go. Tackling homelessness and ending the housing supply crisis is a big priority of this government. And we've got strong partners, and I'd like to thank Lisa and her team at the county for the work that you do each and every day in informing and challenging me. I mean, you know, I think good public policy, you need to be challenged. And so many as I look out here, too many to be named, but you all challenge me as well at upper, lower tier levels of government, organizations, and how we can do better. And I hope that today's announcement will signal to you that we're listening and that we remain a committed partner in tackling the homelessness and housing supply crisis that this province is in. In 2023, the Ontario budget understood this and made a fundamental commitment to supporting those experienced or at risk of experiencing homelessness by increasing the government's investment in the homelessness prevention program by over $200 million annually. This increase in funding represents a 40% increase among the largest in Ontario's history across the board. It includes $41.5 million in Indigenous supportive housing, of which $31 million will be going to Ontario's Aboriginal Housing Services, and many here today work very closely with Ontario Aboriginal Housing Services. So I'm pleased to say, what does that mean for us here in Northumberland? Well, today I'm proud to announce that the Government of Ontario is investing over $2 million into Northumberland Housing and Homelessness Supportive Programming, or HPP supportive programming, which is a 48% increase from the funding last year, a truly historic increase today. This commitment is a part of a yearly investment from the Government of Ontario of close to $700 million across the province. And we know that, you know, we have so much more to do to help those who are experiencing or at risk of homelessness find the right housing services and other supports. And many service providers who are here today are important in that role, important in wrapping our arms around those experiencing homelessness and how we support them in their path forward. This increased funding gives local service managers like Northumberland County the flexibility to allocate funding where it is most needed, allocate it for capital projects, and make better use of existing resources to focus on delivering supports that our most vulnerable rely on each and every day. And I know that with this funding, Northumberland County is going to be able to increase community outreach and supportive services, support emergency sheltering, and so much more, stabilizing that, supporting family diversion, helping those in greatest need. So again, I just really want to thank all of you. I know, you know, it's a Friday and you've taken time out of your day. I appreciate that. I appreciate the role that you play. The work's just starting. This increased funding's got to go to something, and you're going to be on the front lines in delivering those services. So I know I look forward to sitting down with all of you, as does the county, and in the weeks and months ahead, as they continue to deliver exceptional supportive services and improvements for our growing community. Because we're not going to grow if we don't have housing, and we're not going to grow if we don't look after the most vulnerable in our community and give them a leg up, because we really are a great community and there's so many exciting things going on. And I want to thank all of you for playing a role in that. I know there's new municipal councils across the board, and I just want to thank you for your service and for the work we'll do together. And I'd now like to turn it over for my partner in all of this, Warden Mandy Martin. Thank you, Mandy,
Thank you, MPP Piccini. Thank you. Thank you for your leadership, for listening to us, to discussing, to hearing what we have to say, and your continued advocacy for us. Northumberland County believes every resident deserves access to safe, reliable, and affordable housing. The province's homelessness prevention program is a vital source of funding for service managers like the county who are striving to achieve this vision. Access to housing is a key pillar of housing first policies for addressing homelessness. It is also foundational for thriving and inclusive communities. Funding through the homelessness prevention program enables Northumberland County to deliver impactful programming that helps people at risk of homelessness to remain housed, and those experiencing homelessness to obtain housing and supports. The investment today, and I say it again, echoing, represents a nearly 48% increase in the county's annual allocation. This increase will make a difference for our community. It will help us address the immediate needs of vulnerable people, and it will improve outcomes for those experiencing or at risk of homelessness. This investment comes at a critical time for our community. Northumberland, like municipalities across this province, are facing dual crises of housing affordability and homelessness. Housing affordability has long been viewed as an urban issue. This is no longer the case. Homeownership is increasingly out of reach for rural Ontarians. The average cost of homes in Northumberland is significantly above the average household's level of affordability, making homeownership an unobtainable goal for many households in our community. Further, an extremely low rental vacancy rate and high rental costs are intensifying this problem. Like communities across the province, Northumberland County is facing increasingly complex health care issues that are leading to homelessness and extending chronic homelessness. In striving to address local need, Northumberland County is directing increased property tax supported investments towards housing and homelessness supports. For 2023, this includes investments of $10 million in affordable housing initiatives. Northumberland County is also doubling investments in the homelessness system to $560,000. Thanks to the significant investment from the province announced today, we will be able to do even more to help those in need in our community. With this funding, we will work with our partners to enhance critical emergency shelter, outreach, and housing assistance resources. Resources like an additional mental health worker through Northumberland Hills Hospital, so that we will now have 2 full-time resources dedicated to street outreach and intensive mental health case management for people experiencing homelessness. We'll also be investing in resources like expanded shelter benefits to help people at risk pay first and last month's rent, utilities arrears, or rent deposits to stabilize their housing situation. And there will be resources like additional overflow motel shelter spaces, family diversion spaces, and housing case management services through Transition House Shelter. From prevention programs to expanded shelter services, this investment from the province will help further ensure that some of the most vulnerable members of our community have access to essential life-stabilizing supports. These are challenging times. In the face of these challenges, County Council, staff, and community partners are more committed than ever to delivering affordable housing solutions and a coordinated system of supports for individuals experiencing or at risk of homelessness. I know the province and our MPP share this commitment. With this enhanced homelessness prevention program funding announced today, we are in a better position to address these challenges head on. We are grateful for this investment from our provincial partners. We look forward to continued collaboration between all levels of government on strategies to further tackle the pressing and evolving issues of housing and homelessness our communities are facing. Thank you. Thank you for your collaboration, support, and awareness. Thank you for showing up today to send the signal that we get it and we need it. And thank you, David. Happy honeymoon.
Yes. Thank you very much, everyone. I'm happy to take any questions.
The Brookside property. Is that something you're considering for the homeless as a temporary shelter?
Ultimately, for me, that decision is made at county level, and we've said today we're going to up our support of dollars and funding supports. We're working right now. It's gone through disposition, as I've mentioned on a number of occasions, through duty to consult, through IO's disposition process, and Cobourg and the county have partnered to put their hand up together. That collaboration was a relatively new sort of signal since after the recent municipal election, in which Cobourg and the county linked arms and said we're going to express an interest. My understanding from our Infrastructure Ontario officials are that they're now doing preliminary design and proposals for the subject property, which is exciting. You know, we're looking at feasibility, looking at design, and working closely with the county on that, who obviously have a dire need for workforce housing, for supportive housing, and homelessness supports.
So those three things are being considered in terms of that property?
I think absolutely housing is being considered and what that looks like. As for the shelter and those services, I mean, we're working with the county to increase the supports and the outreach workers, and ultimately a decision of the county on what they would do with their capital assets.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Much easier to tweet time.
In regards to interest and some
Yes.
of the factors that are causing homelessness and affordability, what is the government's plan?
Yeah, and the question was on interest and other factors. I mean, inflation, we're all experiencing it. Capital expenditures across the board at the county's feeling it, lower tiers feeling it. We're feeling it with the $10 billion allocated for new healthcare, hospital builds. So I think, what we've said is, as a government, we're not going to increase taxes and the cost of doing business. If anything, we've lowered it, and we've shown, we were one of the few maintain our AAA credit rating. You saw BC's been downgraded and others. Creating that competitive climate, we're attracting investment, significant investment, record manufacturing investment. It's offering hope and opportunity for many, but understanding that, the $4.4 billion in supports through the social services relief funding that we worked in partnership with the county. I mean, it enabled a number of different programming like Northumberland Eats and other programming that supported people through the pandemic. And now working forward, this significant increase, the largest, historic for this county, signals that we understand that it's disproportionately, it's not equitably felt, inflation. It hits, those lowest income earners the hardest when the cost of everything is going up. So through stabilizing supply chains, ensuring we have domestic, robust supply chains, and working with our social service providers, we're confident that when we invest in infrastructure, invest in housing, increase housing supply, increase supportive services, that will tackle this in a meaningful way, and increasing public transit, largest public transit commitment in Canadian history, taking place right now in Ontario.
If I could just add,
Yeah, go ahead, Mandy, please.
one of the challenges that we are very aware of is to build purpose-built housing. So it isn't one size fits all. We have a number of needs and issues, and that's what we are looking at, and that's what we are planning for. Not to the exclusivity of any one group, but to meet the needs of this entire community across this county. And along with that planning, it doesn't just happen, it doesn't fall off a tree. We also have to consider infrastructure and support. And so that is what we're all working towards and working with and discussing. And I can say that David and the province have been more than accommodating and willing to address these issues and the complexity that we face. And we are determined. We're going to build.
David, I kind of wonder with all this building going on, especially young people starting out and married, want to buy their first home. Have we ever thought about, I don't want to say tiny homes, but we got those double wide trailers that you can sit on a foundation, you could put 100 of them in a small area. We'll give them their first start, and it wouldn't cost them, $800,000 or $900,000 or even $500,000.
Yeah, question was on smaller housing, tiny homes, and so many, 3D printing as well. I mean, we're seeing all sorts of new innovative ideas. I think from a building code and standards perspective, it's important that they have that, and I know many do now. And so yes, I mean, the province, as many of you know, standardized that as a right, second, third suites, for many who are starting out. I know, on a very personal level, did it ourselves with our basement unit. Many, so this tackles those, just getting a roof over your head with this funding and getting supports, outreach, supportive services. Not everybody puts their hand up and says, I need help. Sometimes you might catch someone at the right time, and you got to be ready, because not everyone's always asking for help. You've got to be ready to catch them as a safety net when they are ready, and so this funding will support that. For the young families and home buyers, absolutely, like increasing supply, having second, third units as a right, waiving development charges for purpose-built rentals and for affordable housing units. It's a significant piece. We have cooperative housing organizations supporting us on that, and very much feel that increasing that supply and addressing it will take a really meaningful step. We have those who are overhoused too. We have many of them in Northumberland County, and many of them are waiting to get into long-term care. Many of them are waiting to downsize, and we don't have that here. That's why we're in an urgent crisis to build long-term care, to build seniors housing, smaller. Brighton's got a great model right now that they've done. That second and third unit is critical for the family who might look after their parents. A good friend of mine does it here in Cobourg with his parents, and they've been able to make that housing purchase because of that second, third unit. Well, look, thanks everyone for coming. I really appreciate it.
David, tell me, is this one-time funding then?
No, this is an increase in HPP funding, which is annualized. So this is almost a 50% increase in Northumberland County. They're going to continue to benefit this year over year. It builds on, as I said, the $4.4 billion we invested in social services relief funding through the pandemic, of which Northumberland County did a lot of innovative programming with that. And today we brought in invited out a number of different providers who are in our community. And the hope is, they're here, it's an announcement. Now the tough work begins of sitting down at the table, coordinating so that there's no duplication, and helping those who are most vulnerable. If I as MPP and many struggle to navigate the system, and we've got every benefit afforded to us, how can someone who's vulnerable navigate the system? So that's why we've all are here today. We've got to work together in a coordinated manner, and I think this significant increase in funding gives the county the flexibility to think outside the box and to do that. And they've got a great teams in their social service team with Lisa and everyone, and Warden Martin to do that.
How has this been in the works for a while?
Yeah, I mean, we know as a government we campaigned and made a very clear commitment to Ontarians. We're going to build. We're going to invest in the critical infrastructure to support growth, to deal with our housing supply crisis, but it also means coming in for the most vulnerable in our community and giving them a leg up. Manufacturing's back in this community. We're working hard to incentivize new investments. We're about to announce 2 big manufacturing announcements here in Cobourg. We've got to help those most vulnerable get a leg up. But that starts with getting housed. That starts with the wraparound supports that they need. And then we can start about next steps, job training, etc. But it all starts with that wraparound social service supports. And this historic increase, 50% increase, just shy, over now $2.2 million is going to be a step in the right direction.
Last question. It's one of those things to help, but it's obviously the people have to want the help.
Yeah, it's true. You're right, Pete. I mean, not everybody is putting their hands up all day saying, I want help. I think we've had a discussion here in the community about, we've seen those who want to, propose outside of the system enabling drug use, and that's fundamentally, I categorically object to that. And so do the service providers who are here today who want to wrap their arms around someone who's suffering from mental health and addictions, wrap our arms around them and support them. And it starts with a roof over their heads, housing supports, outreach services. We're investing in that here, and we've been working for quite some time as a government to make sure that in our budget we sent a strong signal to municipalities who just finished their elections. We hear you on housing, we hear you on social service supports, and we need a partner in doing that. So it's a big day today.
Lucas,
How's it going?
Great announcement today. But with Cobourg being the largest in the county, and that, will you be sort of vying for?
Bigger piece of the pie, is that what the
Yes.
I have 2 hats to wear as always. So as mayor of Cobourg and as county councillor, I have to sort of understand what hat I'm wearing. So as the mayor of Cobourg, of course I'm going to push for that. I'm going to always look out for Cobourg's interests and do the best job I can, making sure that the residents of Cobourg, including those that are experiencing difficulty, have an opportunity to get a house over their head. That said, as part of the county council, I'm going to look at Northumberland as a whole and see where that greatest need is. And if it is at Cobourg, of course I'm going to be voting at the county level to be pushing that money that way. And so when you're dealing with these kind of issues and these questions, it's a great question. It's really about sort of understanding my role and what hat I'm wearing at what time. So I think it's a great question, because you're right, Cobourg does need a help up, and I'm really excited about this announcement from the minister, from the government of Ontario, because this is much needed funding to really start addressing that housing crisis that we all are very well aware of.
Man, you talk about today's announcement. You talked about it before, but I mean, tell me. Well, I guess one of the questions that I asked Mayor Cleveland, how will this be divided up? In other words, being Cobourg with the biggest chunk of the pie, so to speak, because we're the biggest in the county, how will it be divided up?
We don't think of it as divided up municipally. We think of it as, how do we get the services out? So that's the measure. I can tell you as a county council that we are all working together. We all have these issues across the board. So what we are trying to do is get the services in place and how we deliver those. So, I mean, the fact that Cobourg has a hospital, yes, that presents a certain aspect of one service for the counseling, for example, the extra counselor that's coming on. But with housing, it's all across this county. We're looking at all options. How can we cooperate with land? Will we get donations? Will the municipality give it? It's a collaborative approach.
And one of the things also I thought is, it's great to have the funding, yearly funding, it's great to have, but people have to want the help.
Well, don't forget that I think you're addressing one particular aspect of this overall arching homelessness and at-risk situation. So we are looking at the broad spectrum. We've got to find housing for all kinds of situations and challenges of people. For example, workforce, or is it social services, or is it seniors, or whatever. So it isn't one size fits all, and that's what people keep forgetting. We are a community. We are a community of many ages and many needs, but we are determined to face this as a community so that there aren't silos of this, that, and the other thing. Let's get it together. Let's get the maximum bang for the buck.
Oleta, can you tell me a big announcement today? What are your thoughts?
Oh, it's such exciting news for the county. Obviously, the investment into our homelessness and housing crisis is a step in the right direction. And I'm very excited about what this might mean for Port Hope in meeting all the needs across the housing continuum.
Is there a worry, or I guess I don't want to say battle, but I mean now the discussion talks about how it's distributed?
Well, I hope it's not a battle. I hope it's a constructive conversation about how that money should be equally distributed across the county. And my priority, obviously, being at the county table as not only a councillor of the county, I can't help but to wear my mayor hat for Port Hope, is to ensure that Port Hope also has access to this new funding, because we do have very pressing housing needs in our community.